What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of DGS. We have just finished the investigation portion of Case 4 and heading into the one-day trial of Case 4 now. So, without ado, let's begin. It is February 20th at 9:23 in the morning at the Old Bailey Defendant's Lobby. I never thought that I'd be visiting this place again so soon. We are exchange students who came to this country for the sake of studying law. The stake? The sake? In order to study modern law, we need real courtroom experience. Yes, I guess you're right, but to the defendant, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and it might end up determining their fate. We can't go around calling it research. Yes, you're certainly right about that. Good morning! Soseki-san. Good morning. Ohayou gozaimasu. Your eyes look rather red, Soseki-san. The early riser earns the farthing, or so they say back home. Yes, I know. I'm Japanese too. If you earn a farthing for simply waking up early, it's better not to sleep at all. Earning 1 yen every night adds up, you know. And so, here I am now, terribly sleepy. Sounds like the value he puts on a not guilty verdict is only 1 yen. We look forward to working with you today, Soseki-sama. I leave my life in your hands. No, it is a short and toil-filled life, whose fate even the gods agonize over. I'm so nervous! I feel like, my translator probably should have just kept them in Japanese, and I should just read what he says in Japanese and have a translation, because I think it flows better if I said it all in Japanese. I don't really get him, but I'm actually feeling the nervousness But I'm acutely feeling the nervousness, at least. I'll be fine! I'll be incredibly fine, even! In any case, replacement exchange student Naruhodō. Yes, what is it? Earlier, when I glanced from the hallway into the court's gallery, there were as many spectators gathered there as one might expect for opening day of a major performance. Is my case really of that much interest to the London public? Really? I didn't know that. Susato-san, have you heard anything about it? No, I'm afraid I haven't. The expression on her face says that she knows all about it. I wish you wouldn't hide it! Could it be because of that Grim Reaper, perhaps? Prosecutor Baroque von Zeeks. Is that it, Susato-san? I read all about it in this morning's paper, which I purchased earlier. Prosecutor von Zeeks' name was certainly on the front page. I knew it. Since that prosecutor began to be known as the Grim Reaper. He ceased to appear in court for a few years. Yeah, Detective Gregson mentioned that yesterday too. Apparently, the trial 2 days ago was his first reappearance in several years. Mr. Kazni Mengadol's frightening trial, huh? Back then, it seems that he caused even more of a stir throughout London than he is right now. There's no way we could have known though, right? We hadn't arrived in London yet. What reason could he have for standing in court just 2 days later for such a lackluster case? Each paper reported on whatever reason they had come up with. What do you mean, lackluster case? This is the biggest thing to me since the founding of our country! I'm so sorry. That's what was written in the paper, so... Well... Oh, wait, is this Naruhodō Soseki? Okay. Well, let us set aside this international incident fodder for now. It's strange that a prosecutor who had settled on being quiet for a few years would suddenly pop up again. But there's another obvious commonality between these two trials. Yes, I was thinking the very same thing. And that's you yourself, of course, replacement exchange student Naruhodō. Me, you say? I guess it's true. A Grim Reaper making his big comeback after a few years' absence, and a defense attorney he faced in court both times. Oh, wait. I need to learn how to read, the names. Like, I can read everyone's names. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time thinking. Probably because it's the N or something. A Grim Reaper making his big comeback after a few years' absence, and a defense attorney he faced in court both times was you. Good gracious, he's been nothing more short of chummy with you. Would you stop that? I don't have any Grim Reaper friends. In that case, I can think of one other possibility. This is simply your shockingly bad luck. Ouch. I am the one with shockingly bad luck, being defended by such an attorney. This limitless bad luck, it's the worst since the founding of our country. Double bad luck. But in spite of that, the one who decided to entrust his life to me was you, Soseki-san. He has a point there. I'm an exchange student without luck, experience, or skill, who only just arrived here in London. But I'll believe in you to the end and fight with everything I've got. Replacement exchange student Naruhodō! You're not alone here in London, Soseki-sama. No matter what happens, we're on your side. Legal aid Mikotoba! Please, take care of me! I lay down my humble request before my defendant. Defense! It's time for the trial to commence. Enter the courtroom at once. It's time. Let's go, Soseki-san. Yes, sir! Finally, it begins. My second time in British court. And my second face-off against the Grim Reaper. Watch over me, Asogi. This time for sure, I'll believe in my client to the very end and fight for him. Just as you did for me. As a defense attorney, I'll believe in myself and fight. Oh shoot, I forgot to mark on the script earlier. Oops! I put markers, like, when I finish the video so I can find my points later on. I forgot to do that, so that's gonna be fun having to figure out later. Same day at 10 o'clock in the morning at the Old Bailey Full Court. Now then, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I declare court to be in session. Allow me to ask the prosecution and defense. Are you ready to make your cases? The prosecution is prepared. The defense is also prepared. Well, you tried. I must admit, I find the Japanese to be fascinating creatures. What's this about? I heard about you, from Lord Vortex. Something about you being barely more than a poser of an exchange student who arrived here in London just 2 days ago. What of it? So you wish to help your fellow countrymen? A truly Japanese brand of vanity. Pardon me, but I don't believe there's anything vain about it. Susato-san. If I'm not mistaken, we received a not guilty verdict in our previous trial. Precisely. Quite a flavorful trial it was. And unfortunately, it seems that after the trial, the defendant met a most unfortunate death. Very well. It seems as there's nothing preventing this trial from beginning. And now, I address the 6 reasonable jurors selected from among the citizens of our imperial city. Are all of you prepared?
I appear here today as a gentleman seeking justice.
I'm far cooler than I look.
I'm every bit the peace-loving, good-willed young man that I appear.
Anyone who says that is suspicious.
I always thought that mustache man was up to no good.
What are you doing there?
Let's get a move on. He's obviously guilty anyway.
Huh? What was that? I can't hear you.
Is juror number 6 always just reserved for, like, the people who just are, like, absent-minded? Very well. Now then, let us begin. Lord Valzix, your opening statement. The Great British Empire recently signed a peace treaty with a certain Eastern Island nation. The defendant, Natsumi Soseki, is an exchange student visiting from that island nation. Great Britain welcomed this exchange student with open arms. However, unfortunately, that exchange student committed a fearsome act of violence against our imperial city. Oh. He stabbed an innocent lady in the back with a knife in the street.
What? I want to make it clear that I think criminals who employ knives are the worst sort.
Look at him. Yellow-skinned, small. That's what the Japanese are.
I couldn't care less, so let's all make our decision right away. On 3.
Huh? What was that? I can't hear you.
We're already off to a great start with the jurors. I would like to apologize for the impropriety of starting the trial by disposing of the Lord's chalice in the Garden of Judgment. I would like to request that the first witness be shown to the stand. Very well. In that case, show in the detective who supervised the crime scene investigation. We're getting Gregson, aren't we? Oh, we are. Hello, Mr. Gregson. Witness, your name and occupation. Sir, name's Tobias Gregson. I'm a detective of Scotland Yard. Now, detective, if you could give us a briefing on the incident. The victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Brazilian Green. Belizean Green. Wait, this was not in the last script. What? Okay, Belizean Green. Hold on just a moment. What do you mean is thought to be? Well, the victim was stabbed in the back with a knife, but even now, 3 days after the incident, she still hasn't regained consciousness. What? But that's unconscious, Is her life not in danger? Fortunately, the Oriental exchange student did not succeed in his murderous designs. You know, I think this might have been solved if she just waited until she woke up. Detective Gregson, a detailed breakdown of the events of the case, if you would. Sir, now, please take a look at this map of the area where the crime occurred. The incident occurred 3 days ago, around 5 p.m. The scene of the crime was Briar Road, 2 walking paths with a wide carriage roadway between them. The victim, Miss Green, was walking on the path just after it had stopped snowing. That's when the defendant snuck up behind her and stabbed her. Fortunately, the victim's life was spared and she was admitted to a hospital here in London, where she remains to the present, but she's still unconscious, so we're unable to get a statement from the victim herself. Here's the incident report. Very well, the court accepts this as into evidence. The incident report, a summary of the case and victim's information. Victim was stabbed in the back and is still unconscious. And what of the weapon used to commit the crime? Sir, here it is. It was found still stuck in the victim's back. That's one big knife. I'd like to avoid being stabbed with that if at all possible. With a knife as heavy as this one, even someone who wasn't particularly strong could have committed the crime. So in other words, even frail-looking Soseki-san could have done it, huh? This looks like the sort of knife you could find anywhere. In any case, the court accepts it into evidence. The attacker's knife. A large folding knife with no remarkable characteristics, found stuck in the victim's back. So, what was the attacker's motive? They wanted to rob her, perhaps? As far as we can tell, based on what she had on her, the victim was an impoverished student. We don't think she had enough money on her for anyone to bother stealing. Then, perhaps the attacker had some intense grudge against the victim? We don't know. Due to the fact that exchange student Natsumi hardly left his room except to visit the used bookshop, as of now, we haven't managed to find any points of contact between the victim and the defendant. If it were neither theft nor a grudge, then Soseki-san would have no reason to stab Belizia-san. And yet, he was arrested anyway. Wasn't that too rough? Why would you throw such a good bottle of wine? It was incredibly rude of me to have tossed a holy bottle whose seal had only just been broken into the gallery, and for that I beg your indulgence. I hope no one got bludgeoned by it. However, I believe it could be said that it was your statement just now that was too rough. Eh? Naturally, Scotland Yard would never make an arrest without a reason. Detective Gregson, we will hear your testimony now. In regards to the reason that the Japanese man was apprehended as the attacker. Yes, sir! Witness testimony. The reason Soseki was arrested. It was around 5 p.m. when the attack occurred. The fog was unusually light that night. The visibility at that crime scene was good, and there was no sign of anyone besides the victim and the attacker. The victim was stabbed suddenly from behind and fell upon the path. The attacker made a run for it, and that's when he dropped some things he'd been carrying at the scene of the crime. The things he's been carrying were old books. Apparently he was on his way home from the used bookshop. When we discovered the owner of the old books, it led us to the defendant, and rearrested him. Seems valid, makes sense. Old books, you say? This is a photo of the crime scene taken by the police just after the attack. There do indeed appear to be old books scattered about the victim. Please submit that photo. The court will accept it into evidence. Crime scene photo. Taken by the police. A photo of the crime scene right after the attack. There's a large knife sticking out of the victim's back. The Japanese must be utterly cowardly creatures. They continue to deny everything, in spite of such clear proof. That's... The defendant does not deny everything. Susanoo-san. What do you mean? Soseki-sama has properly admitted to his connection to the incident. Isn't that right, Naruhodō-sama? Come to think of it, yesterday, at the detention center, when I asked him about the incident, I spied only one other figure traversing the accursed road. I attempted to bypass that figure clad in a green coat, and that's when I suddenly heard that person let out a soft scream, and then she collapsed upon the frozen road. Frightened, I attempted to flee the scene. Naturally, at full speed, back to the room of my cursed lodgings.
A green coat.
There can be no mistake. The victim was wearing a green coat.
You're right. This is why my first time ever seeing a colored photograph.
The defendant admits to having fled the scene of the crime. However, he certainly never did anything so cruel as to stab the victim in the back. The only two figures seen along the walkway were the defendant and the victim, and no one else. In other words, there was no one else at the scene of the crime who could have stabbed the victim. Has the defendant himself not just acknowledged that fact? It seems that depending on how the cross-examination proceeds, it could have a major effect on this trial. Now, defense, bearing that in mind, begin your cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. I have no choice but to do this. I'll change the atmosphere in this court with a cross-examination, for sure. Alright, before we do that, the script is telling me to go look at stuff here. So, let's do that. What am I looking at? Is this the receipt? Do I have any other receipts? No? This is the only receipt? Alright, let's examine the receipt. Okay, Mr. Natsumi Soseki's total 2 shillings. The certifies that amount recorded above has received at the book price for the portrait of Monsieur Lecourt, and Gubberell and the Sea, and Canterbury Yearning. February 17 at 4:45 p.m. at the Raggedy Used Books proprietor. With translations later. Is this the incident report? The incident report. I'll put a translation out here in the thing, because I don't want to read it. Belizean green, female, plump build, stabbed deeply in the back, unconscious, Briar Road, Wake, hold on. Is that where it stops? Yeah, Briar Road. Reported by Laura O'Malley. O'Malley. Due to the fact that the victim is unconscious, her name was determined based on items she carried on the person. Additional personal details are unknown. Stabbed deeply in the back with a large knife, causing a deep wound. There is only one stab wound, and there are no other external injuries. Information saw the suspect fleeing the scene, and he was successfully apprehended the next day. Done. Alright then. Let us begin the cross-examination, yo. Yosh. Can I finish this cross-examination in one video, though? The fog was light. Well, I say light, but it was at least thick enough that one could just barely see the opposite side of the street. Is that really what you call light? Ugh. In the city, yes. Well, I guess as a Japanese person, you would know that. I read in a book that London was called the City of Fog. In Japan, people often say it must be a beautiful sight. This is pointless. Well, it doesn't hold that sort of romanticism for us. Is that so? During this season, there are countless accidents due to the fog, on days when it's especially thick. It's to the point where you couldn't see your own fingertips if you stretched your arms straight out in front of you. Why, just the other day, I couldn't see the carriage until I was kicked by the horse. Oh, that's really something. However, on that day, the benevolent fog was quite a bit better than that. Unfortunately for the attacker, how can you be so sure of that? It's simple. The eyewitness testified to that effect. Now that he mentions it, Detective Gregson said something like that yesterday. Yes, I believe he said that the witness was a Scotland Yard officer. Precisely. We need to hear that eyewitness's testimony. Naturally, we shall, if necessary. But at 5 p.m. during the winter, it probably would have been dark out there already. Even if the fog was thin, we can't be sure that any other figures present could have been visible in the darkness. Would have been. I don't know about how things are in a small Oriental island nations, but here in the Imperial City of London, all our streets are lit by gas lamps. Eh? A visual on the scene would have been entirely possible. That is the prosecution's opinion. Since the dawn of human history, there has been a city that has fended off the darkness. That's London, our imperial city. So, what you're saying is that in order to hear the eyewitness testimony, you have to somehow drag it out from this cross-examination? Yep. Now that the defense has finally silenced itself, you may continue your testimony, detective. I will not be silenced, damn it! From behind, you say? Yeah, just as you clearly see from this photo. There does appear to be a blade protruding from her back. Miss Green seems to be in a dangerous state of unconsciousness. Yes, at present she is convalescing in St. Bartholomew's Hospital. We had hoped that she would regain consciousness before this trial began, but... Indeed, we might have been able to learn the attacker's identity straight from her own mouth. Why can't we just wait? How very... convenient for your client. No, it's actually quite inconvenient. That is the defense's opinion. Before you attempt to put up a strong front, you might do something about those restless eyes of yours. Ooh. Poor Naruhodō. Something Soseki-san had been carrying? Right, that also showed in the photo. You're referring to those 3 old books, right? Yes, because they fell in the snow, they were ruined. It surely would have been possible for the defendant to carry this number of books in one arm. In other words, he could have managed the knife with his free hand. That prosecutor really has thought of everything. Eh? He had his hands full with the books. That assertion can no longer be made. He instantly cut off our method of escape. We must acknowledge his exceptional skill in doing so. So, then the attacker committed the crime while still holding on to his belongings? Yes, that's what it would have to mean. It seems that the defendant visited the used bookshop regularly, correct? Precisely. Apparently, that used bookshop was full of nothing but old English literature. Our country's classical literature. I respect the defendant's admirable taste. Indeed, the defendant's room was overflowing with mountains of old books. I'd like to hear about this used bookshop in a bit more detail, please. Well, in that case, please look at this map of the neighborhood around the crime scene once more. The closest used bookshop to the defendant's boarding house is here, Bourbon. It's a small shop at the corner of Briar Road and Misham Road. Except he didn't go to Bourbon. Incidentally, the defendant's boarding house is on the opposite side of Briar Road. So the road he would have taken back to his boarding house after purchasing his books was, naturally, like this. Crime scene map has been added. Information relevant to the case is recorded on it. Indeed, if he were returning to his boarding house from this used bookshop, it appears that he would definitely have had to pass through the scene of the crime. Naruhodō-sama, the detective's statement just now was incredibly important. Yes, I think so too. The most important part in his statement about the used bookshop was its location, its name, the merchandise selection. The name. Detective Gregson, may I make one request? What might that be? Could I have you add the name of the bookshop to your testimony? I get the feeling that it might be incredibly important information. You get the feeling? No, it definitely is. I believe it is a vital clue. Very well. I don't see what good it will do, but... Witness, please modify your testimony about the used bookshop. It would be my pleasure, Your Honor. I feel like I could hear him clenching his teeth with his entire body when he said my pleasure. It seems that bourbon is the store that the defendant visited. Was it really now? We are unfortunately now out of time, so we will have to finish the rest of this testimony in the next video. So I'll see you guys then.